Ms. Gonzalez, if you would please state your name.
Yes. Linda Lizette Gonzalez.
And you're the mother of the children in this case, correct?
Yes, Jose Alejandro Renteria and Jose Allen Renteria.
Okay. So you heard my announcement earlier that what we're asking the court to do is just to modify the medical support. We're going to leave the child support the same.
Okay, the issue here is that my ex-husband, we got divorced in June 8th of 2020. And since then, my ex-husband has only done 11 payments of child support. He still owes, he's behind 27,764 with 24 cents. And
We're going to take a judgment today. We're taking a judgment today. But
yeah,
I don't want to modify the child support amount because I don't have wage information that I can verify today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't want to lower, because the only other option is it goes down to minimum wage because I don't have actual wages in front of me. But
Okay.
your order had like the government program, but it didn't have a medical reimbursement, which is typically, it's not typically, but it is required by law for the government program to have the cash medical add part of it.
Yes.
So that's what I'm telling the judge, the order only has the government program without reimbursement. I want the reimbursement today. I want to leave the child support untouched. And then I'm going to take a judgment for what's owed and get a payback on that. And then we can review it for contempt later because the children are still under the age of 18. So we have time to review it for contempt, which I think is the next step because he's not really paying.
And to be honest with you, this is another thing that I wanted to bring up also in the court, because I did speak to somebody from Attorney General last week. He did do a payment the beginning of this month. And I ended up getting a letter, and I even have it right here, that this letter that was sent to me, that the money that was sent to my kids, they wanted me to return it back. So I called and I asked them why. And they said because apparently the check that he had sent was voided. By my understanding, it was an insufficient fund check. So then they wanted to get the money back for my kids. And I said, okay, but that's something that was already given. That's not my problem, my issue. That's something that has to be, dealt upon with him. Because they said, okay, well, we're going to do an arrangement. So I asked them, okay, so are you telling me that the next payment you're going to be deducting like 100 or something like that until it's paid off? And they told me, no, the next payment, they're going to deduct half of it. And I said, I'm sorry, that's very unfair because that belongs to my kids. My kids have nothing to do with it. It's not their fault. That's something that should be brought up with him.
So we're kind of talking about things outside of the courtroom. You're talking about it's a recoupment that you're referring to. So what happens is if it's insufficient funds, and I don't know without looking, so I'm basing it off what you say, that if there's insufficient funds, then the state is kind of covering the insufficient funds. And that's why we're recouping it because, the state shouldn't pay the support. He sent a bad check and we had already dispersed it to you, I guess, before it cleared. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to look at the case, but it doesn't look like we're giving credit on the pay record. I'm going to show you.
Well, but the credit is one thing. If you all don't give him credit and he still owes it to her, that's one thing. But the issue of her having to give it back, can we, were you going to get an arrears amount today?
That's in our pleading, Your Honor. We were going to take a judgment. And so we don't, the pay record does not give him credit of that payment.
I just really think it's unfair. And I understand that, the state is not supposed to pay. It's, where the parent does have to send it, then they have to send it to me. But why should it go towards my kids and affect my kids? I think the person that you should go to is towards him because he's the one that issued the check. My kids have nothing to do with it.
I don't mind not giving him credit because if the check bounced, he doesn't get credit, so he still owes it to you. That where I'm struggling is
that's what I'm
pay
kind
it back.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, Your Honor, that he's not getting credit for.
No,
that.
we all agree on that. I think she agrees that if he
And
didn't
I agree
and
too.
his check bounced, it goes back on the amount he owes. The credit is she has to give it back.
Well, that's why, Your Honor, because so if he doesn't get credit because there were insufficient funds, then that payment is not really was not really counted.
All
as-
right, the flip side of that then, if she doesn't pay it back, then we give him credit? Is it that easy?
Well, no, because right now the state made that payment to her is what it looks like.
Well,
Because
can we find out before we do anything? Can we
we-
do temporary orders and set the medical, the insurance part, Ms. Gonzalez? And then we come back and verify how much she actually owes or what's gonna happen with that. It was one payment, right, Ms. Gonzalez, of
It was-
587?
Yes, and if I can show you this, Your Honor, I have my phone right here. These, oh, hold on, this is what he's been giving since we had divorced.
Okay, well, we'll get to that because I don't want to consider it an evidence because we're not getting into that right now. I think Mr. Schamberger was just trying to get, he said he
Mhm.
just wanted to change the medical. What he meant by that is the family code states that if we do not have enough information on wages,
Mhm.
we can lower the child support to minimum as if he's working 40 hours a week, $7.25 an hour. They're not going to do that. They're not going to lower the child support. They are choosing to leave the child support at 587. But we do have to change the order with respect to the insurance, the medical. It needs to be put in there that the child has medical. I thought that's what we were gonna do only, but then he started talking about arrears and how much is owed, and I think we're getting lost in that. And did
But
you?
the other thing we can do, Your Honor, that I think could simplify this is if we only modify the medical and I non-suit the request for judgment, I can turn around and file a contempt action in a few months and then we deal with the
Yeah.
judge part of the
Yeah.
contempt.
Once we bring
That way
him
it's
in-
finalized today.
Yeah, once we bring him in live, Ms. Gonzalez, because enforcement for non-payment of child support, those cases are the ones where you're asking that he go to jail, but those have to be done live at the courthouse. And so we'll do that later. Once we get him in, we can talk about this 1 month and the check bouncing and all that, okay?
That way she
Without
doesn't have to,
respect-
that way she doesn't have to come back. We're not taking a judgment, so we can still hold them in contempt for prior months
Yes.
of non-payment. So we can just turn around and file a contempt action. pretty
I don't
quickly.
want to touch in today's order, Ms. Gonzalez. I don't want to mention how much he owes you. Because by doing that, we have to talk about that 1 month, whether you're going to give it back or not. So we're not going to talk about it. We're only going to put in the order, the insurance, the medical. They're going to refile a petition to enforce payment of child support. You'll get a court hearing like for May. Once we get into court on that he hasn't been paying child support, we have to come up with an arrears. How much does he owe you? And then that's where this other topic comes in, okay?
Real quick,
That's all we can do for you today, Ms. Gonzalez, but
oh,
do
no,
you
no,
have
no,
any-
no.
Yeah,
What I mean is that, as far as him showing up to court, to be honest with you, it's gonna be
Ms.
very hard.
Gonzalez, the enforcement, if they serve him and he
Yes.
doesn't show up, we issue capias. It's just, I'm
Okay.
not gonna give you legal advice on something that's gonna happen in the future. I can only deal with what we were here for today. And
Okay.
because of what you told us, we're not gonna get an arrears. So the court is gonna grant the order to modify the child support order. We're gonna leave the child support at 587, but Mr. Schamberger, the medical?
I was just gonna ask for 50, which would be kind of like the minimal amount, beginning March 1st.
How are the children insured, Ms. Gonzalez?
They do have children's Medicaid.
Okay, so that doesn't affect you. The court will grant a $50 medical payment beginning March 1st. Court costs will be billed to Mr. Renteria. I will sign the order electronically, Ms. Gonzalez. And then you will be getting something from the Attorney General on any future hearings, okay?
One question, is it 50 for both or 50 for each?
Total, it's 50 total, whether
50
that's
total.
whether it's one child or 20 children in the order, the medical support is one set amount until all the children have emancipated. And just so you know, Ms. Gonzalez, we do have to go through some administrative steps before we file the contempt. So it may be a couple months before we file it because we have to do some necessary precursory things, okay? So we're not going to turn around and file it next week because we have to follow some steps, okay? But that's our
Okay.
next step in this case.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. You are excused.
thank you.